Hi, this is Glenda, and today's soap, it's a soap that I made inspired on an image that popped into my head about this soap, and it sort of looked like this, and I decided to attempt it. I have started by measuring out my oils from the master batch. They are currently at 95 degrees Fahrenheit or 35 degrees Celsius. Actually, it looks like it's 96 Fahrenheit. And to this, I'm going to add lye. The lye has been mixed with water prior, and it is at room temperature. That should be about 78 Fahrenheit or 25 Celsius. And I'm going to add it to the oils. The oils are usually a mix of beef tallow, olive oil, shea butter, castor oil, and coconut oil. And I have here the recipe. I'm going to include a link below in the blog post in case you want to check it out. This particular recipe also has silk, which I added to the lye water solution and it melted in it. Now in the picture that I had in my mind, the soap looked like it had an ombre effect. So I'm going to prepare the colorant. It's going to be 1 teaspoon of azure blue mica from Wholesale Supplies that I'm going to disperse in oils. And prior to this, I already dispersed black pearl mica in another small container in oil. I have only attempted the ombre effect in soap once, and I remember it took a long time, and that's probably why I have not tried it again. This time though, I'm going to try to do something different. I'm going to try to do a tiger swirl. And from what I've seen, it's when you just pour different layers in the middle of the mold and you do them on top of each other so they form this pattern. Now for the ombre effect, it's important that the soap is fluid. It cannot be too thick because then there is too much differentiation between the layers. So I'm gonna try to keep the batter fluid. I like to stir my blend with the spatula for about a minute before using the stick blender, and once I introduce the stick blender, I prefer to use it in short bursts because I'm trying to only achieve emulsion phase so that I can keep the batter fluid. I use the stick blender to see on the shaft of it how thick the soap batter is, whether it's coating it and it's not breaking apart. Right now I'm just looking for it not to be breaking apart. And once I feel have reached emulsion, I'm going to add the fragrance. I've chosen a fragrance that usually behaves well even for my recipe. My recipe has about 60% of solid fats, so most fragrances tend to make it trace faster. The Perfect Man seems to behave well with it, so that's what I'm using, and also because the soap seems to be sort of manly in the colors that it will have, and I wanted something that went along with that. After I stir the fragrance in, I'm going to separate a small portion. Actually, it's not that small. It looks like it's 18 ounces of the soap batter into a different container, and then whatever I have left is what I'm going to do the blue color with. The soap is not a light trace, and what I'm going to do is that I'm going to add a little bit of the blue colorant to the mix, and I'm going to start pouring. And then as I keep pouring, I'm going to be adding a little bit more of the color until it is all gone or almost gone. I have a question for you. Have you ever had a picture pop into your head that you were not thinking about? I'm curious to know because it has happened to me a few times. It doesn't happen often though. And this was one of the times that it happened, and then I thought, oh, I'll make the soap. But another time, it was when I was engaged to my now husband. We had a lot of trouble finding an engagement ring because we couldn't agree on a design. I had told him to pick it, but he thought that I was too picky and that I wouldn't like whatever he picked. But then when we went to the stores and I will pick something simple, he said, that's too simple. That's just stone on a band. And I thought it was fine, but he thought it was too simple. So it was becoming it was taking too long and it was becoming an issue. I was beginning to lose patience. So I pray about it. And then one time I was watching a show or a movie with my family. And as I'm watching the movie, I have this picture appeared in my head of a ring. And it wasn't a design that I had seen anywhere. And I thought, that's it. That's what the ring needs to look like. So I got up, went to the computer, and started looking for a design that looked just like that. And then when I showed it to my fiance, he said, that looks nice. Let's look for this. Oh, by the way, going back to the soap real quick. Once I was halfway through filling the mold, I started doing the same ingredient, but with the gray colored, or I think it was black per mica, like I said before. And so I started doing the same. I added a little bit, and then I poured, and then I added more, and then I pour it, so that the top will be more of the dark gray, and then the bottom will be the blue. Now, to finish off the engagement ring story, the place where I found the most similar picture online was a place in the UK. I'm in the US, and I emailed them to see if they do, do they ship stuff? Do they sell internationally, or what? Unfortunately, I never heard back from them. And so what I did is that I took the picture to a local jewelry shop, and I asked them to make me something similar. That's how I ended up with this ring. For the top, I will be using just some random soap dough embeds that I had that I think go well with men's soap. And especially some that I think my husband will like the Vulcan greeting from Star Trek, Superman's cape, and then the Yankees symbol, and then some more generics like the golf ball with the golf club and an owl. I removed the soap from the mold about 32 hours later, and unfortunately the battery died or something happened, so I didn't film the actual cutting. So I'm gonna show you what they look like in the end. I was kind of surprised but pleased. It didn't quite look like what I had in mind, but it looks cool, I think. Anyway, this is it. I hope you liked it, and thank you for joining me. Hopefully, I'll see you next week. Bye.